Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for our final session of the 2022 Virtual Admitted Students Week. Since this is my first time being on your screen this week, I wanted to take a moment and personally congratulate each and every one of you on your admission to the University at Buffalo School of Law. For those of you that I have not had the pleasure of meeting or getting a chance to talk to individually, my name is Rachel Herbst, and I am the admissions coordinator here in the School of Law. I know the application process is a long journey, and I hope that this week you were able to sit back, relax, and get your questions answered and learn more about UB from our faculty, staff, alumni, and now from our current students. So for the next hour, I have 3 of our current students here to answer your burning questions. I will remind everyone that this session is being recorded. However, I highly encourage that you keep your cameras on and engage in the conversation if you feel comfortable to unmute yourself and ask questions. However, if not, feel free to add them to the chat and then I will ask them to our panelists. So now I'm going to go ahead and let our panelists introduce themselves. I'm going to go across my screen. So I'm going to start with Olivia.
Hi, you all. I'm Olivia. I am a 2L and I guess rising 3L. So I'm in my second year of law school. I'm originally from Buffalo. I grew up here. I went away for undergrad and I came back and now I'm here doing law school and it's a fun time. I have a lot of different interests in terms of fields of law, but I'm thinking maybe estates or intellectual property. Sorry, I'm at work and I'm going to turn off my phone. And contracts. That's my other thing. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to go on to Tim.
Hi, all. My name is Timothy Keene. I am a third-year law student here at the University at Buffalo, and I am from Buffalo. I did my undergraduate here at Canisius College, and my interests in law are transactional law, so writing contracts and negotiating deals between parties as opposed to litigation, which is more adversarial. And I was also a writing fellow here at the school, so I'm happy to answer any questions about writing or your classes or anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. And Rachel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. I'm a 3L here at UB Law. Like Tim, I also went to Canisius here in Buffalo for my undergrad. I'm from Buffalo. My interest in law is focused on immigration, doing employment immigration, family immigration, and humanitarian immigration, so with refugees and asylees. And like Tim, I was also a writing fellow here, and I sit on the editorial board of Buffalo Human Rights Law Review, and I used to be the vice president of the Student Bar Association.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So now everyone got a little bit of information about who you're going to be talking to. I'm going to open it up to questions. So again, feel free to add to the chat or go ahead and just unmute yourself to ask a question.
I'm happy to start just to break the ice. Hi, everyone. I'm Jess Kent. I work for Lindy Korn for the past 3 years, and I'm really kind of curious about moving from mediation into law. I'm interested as kind of an older student who in your peer group have kind of taken some time in between undergrad and graduate work, and how you have seen either differences or mistakes made that we should be aware of as we go into our first year and return to the classroom.
I have something for this. So a couple of my friends are, I don't know what they would be called, non-traditional students, but students that have a wider gap between their undergrad and law school. A couple of my friends, some of them I think perhaps struggled a little bit getting back into like the school side of things, but I greatly admired their different perspectives that they have and having work experience. And I took a year off. That was for what you're saying, that's like lame, but they have, and they're often in different fields than law. like we have a couple of teachers. We had someone who was in banking. One of my friends was like in like intellectual property, but from the science side of it, and she's really interesting to talk to. And just having life experience and different perspectives that perhaps um, individuals who came right from their undergrad don't have.
So I went right from my undergraduate to UB Law. So I wish I had more to say on the subject, but I will say that all of my friends who took longer periods of time in between completing their undergraduate and starting law school are probably the most competent people I've ever met at the school. They have already figured out how to be a good person, and they like have or more fully developed as a person in between the gap that a young student would starting law school. Many of them have kids. Many of my friends do anyway. And I would say that I don't think the transition is that difficult. I think that you pick up and remember the student life rather quickly because it's pretty standard and you will have a rigorous schedule in your 1L year that keeps you on task. Try to do your best with completing the readings. It can be a lot, especially if you have family obligations or work obligations, but try to devote as much time as you can to your coursework because I think you should treat it like a full-time job as best as you can. And the school does a really good job at helping you maintain a schedule and accommodating you when you need help. And I wish I could say more than that, but I think that you will have very little trouble succeeding in your first year of law school and getting back in the swing of being a student.
I would just echo everything Olivia and Tim just said. I mean, one of my really good friends in law school is a non-traditional student as well. She had a whole career in health before she even went to law. So it is a bit of an adjustment, but people make it and it won't take you that long to get back into the swing of it.
Thank you. And thank you, Jess, for starting us off. All right. Can you tell us what you want to do after law school and how it has changed from when you first started law school?
I can start with this one. So I think I'm kind of in the rare position that I went to law school wanting to be an immigration lawyer. And 3 years later, I still want to be an immigration lawyer. I've been working in the immigration field all throughout law school. And after being admitted to the bar, I will become an immigration lawyer at Journeys End Refugee Services, which is a resettlement agency here in Buffalo. So it really hasn't changed.
I'll start, and I might ramble a little bit because as far back as I remember, I wanted to be a lawyer, but I've still never gotten good at answering the "what do you want to be when you grow up" question. When I started law school, I knew that I had interests. So there's a general area of material that interests me and that I find fascinating, and that's national security, policy, international law. And though that is still my academic interest and fascination, finding an avenue to do that kind of work right out of law school can be difficult, especially when you have student loans to pay off, because most government jobs that work in those fields are not the best for paying off debt if you're trying to get rid of it as quickly as possible. So my direction has taken me towards transactional law, where I'll be able to work more in a corporate setting for companies that do work adjacent to those fields. So I've discovered defense contracting as the field that I think would be the way to get my foot into the door of those circles. So I found that if you have an interest coming into law school, there are multiple paths to get to where you want to be, even if you're not quite sure. And as long as you're doing something that makes you happy, I would say you're doing the right thing. And I would also say that when you start to work on the material you're assigned in law school, there will be cases that interest you. There will be topics that interest you. There will be topics that upset you. And those kinds of materials will direct you to what kind of advocacy you want to do and what kind of work you want to pursue. So it is a learning process, I find.
I agree with that. It is a learning process. I came into law school being like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. I'll do anything. I'm pretty interested in a lot of things. And even up to like last fall, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And I am kind of unique in the situation that I don't know exactly where I'll end up. If it will be in Buffalo, probably not. Probably in a whole different state, actually. So I'm trying to be very flexible with that, but I did to kind of, there was a question, so I'll try to transition into it because my answer goes there, about experiential learning. I did an externship within UB last fall, and I'm now continuing there with work in the technology transfer office, which is the office in UB that deals with researchers from UB, so the professors and researchers that we have when they are contracting with different organizations like companies like Google and like drug companies to do research or to do clinical trials with them. I help to prepare those contracts, whether they're like confidentiality contracts, or they're getting materials, or they're doing a clinical trial or something like that. And I did not have intellectual property, as it wasn't even on my head at all. And so getting to work with this office and like having a job with them now has definitely influenced that this is something that I might actually want to do one day. So, and it's also I guess a non-traditional career route if you want to work for a university and you don't have to take the bar. You just need to go to law school to have that like contracting experience, which is like kind of what Tim was saying, is like when you do some forms of transactional work and work for different agencies, you can still be doing like legal work, but it's not like technically practicing law, so you don't have to take the bar.
Thank you for leading us into that other question. So I'll open it up to Tim and Rachel. What clinics or experiential learning opportunities have you participated in?
So my 2L year in the fall, I did an externship with Journeys and Refugee Services, which is where I currently am working at now. And I just did their externship there. So I worked there, I think 20 hours a week or so. And now I am doing the Pro Bono Scholar Program. I'm not sure if it was mentioned prior to this event, if it came up at all, but it's essentially just a program in New York that allows you in your 3L spring semester to take the bar early and then to spend your spring semester working 40 hours a week at a nonprofit. So now, instead of taking classes, I work 40 hours a week at Journey's End.
So unlike Rachel, I didn't do any externships during my time here at the law school. My experiential credit came from either internships that I did, for example, at the Erie County District Attorney's Office, where I worked in the Special Investigations Office prosecuting white collar crime like fraud and identity theft. And I also, correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, I believe that our writing fellowship counted towards experiential credit, where we were basically a teacher's assistant for the writing professors here at the law school, helping students draft their first writings in law school, help them conduct legal research. So I don't have a similar experience to Rachel's, but I will try to connect it back to the previous question as well. Your internships and your externships will also be a method for how you determine what kind of work you want to do after law school. For example, I worked in criminal law and I decided that I didn't want to do it anymore. You might find that you love criminal law when you have an internship there your first summer. So your internships and your externships and your experiential credits here at the law school are another great method for ruling things out and narrowing down the choices for work that you want to do.
Thank you. We have a question in the chat. Could you specify how the work you do in law school differs from undergraduate or professional work? What particular skills have been the most critical to your success?
I could start with that one. So I would say with law school, it's very different from undergrad where it's a lot more strenuous. You're going to have to do a lot of reading. And unlike in undergrad, you can't get away with not doing the reading. Like you will get called out on it if you don't do it. You need to keep up with your work. And I think one of the skills that I learned that was critical to succeeding in law school is thinking like a lawyer, just kind of looking at facts and scenarios and thinking of any possible alternatives that could possibly come up from the fact pattern. And really too, just personal skills, working with other people, because it is imperative both in practice, but also in law school to, get a study group and to be a cooperative person. So those I think are some skills that I really solidified in law school.
I will pick up where Rachel left off. I think that the most fundamental skills that you will develop will be your reading and your writing skills. Like Rachel said, you just cannot get away with not doing the work. First of all, you're paying a lot of money, most of you, to attend here. So you should try to get as much out of this experience as you can. And that includes not blowing off your readings. You don't want to embarrass yourself when you get asked a question and you flounder it. I would say the best way that you can get better at it, and you do get better at it really quickly, is to take your first year classes very seriously. They're selected by the law school very particularly. You will be learning the fundamentals of law and legal analysis. And your writing class especially, it'll be called legal analysis, writing, and research. There are so many skills that you will be able to get out of that class. And then it's just repetition, because every single, or at least most of your assignments and work will be applying a set of law to a set of facts and coming up with a conclusion. And I would also say on this, follow your syllabi. The syllabus for your classes will direct you exactly what the professor's expectations are. And if you get a syllabus over the summer, read it. And if you get the opportunity to, order your book or start going to the library early and start to get ahead of that reading, because it does pile up if you don't stay ahead of it.
Definitely concur with both what Tim and Rachel said. As far as, I think time management is a really, really important skill in law school. Keeping up with everything that you have to do, having some sort of schedule, whatever works for you, whether it's having a paper planner. I am very, very attached to my Google Calendar, and even scheduling out like your free time a little bit. Like if you want to hang out with your friends or have dinner, especially the first year of law school will feel like a completely new world, and it is. So just kind of acknowledge that. Don't let imposter syndrome get you too much. Like, remember that you were accepted here like everybody else. All of your professors are really smart. They've been doing it a long time, and you can't let yourself get too you shouldn't let yourself get too fish out of water feeling, because every one of your classmates has gone through what you're going through at some point. And just remember to time manage and to keep up your relationships, not only in the terms of like networking with other professionals and with your students, but keep in touch with your friends and your family. That will kind of alleviate some of your stress to have something to go to when the schoolwork starts to pile up.
Thank you, Olivia. You led into another question. Again, thank you. How do you balance your studies, work, and home life?
Go into it. Balance is something that I figured out really fast, and some of my other classmates didn't. I think maybe perhaps struggled with it. I figured out I love law school and I love being here, but it's not my life. And with that understanding, or it's not my whole life rather, with that understanding, I did I did block out periods of time where I was like, I'm just gonna watch Netflix for a couple hours, and it did happen to be like kind of late at night sometimes, or like on the weekends. But I was really strict with my time, and I was like, this is when you're going to do reading for class. And when I had breaks in classes, I would try to do my reading for the rest of the week in that, because I was like at school anyway, and it kind of invigorated me to like be in the school set of mind. And then when I went home on the weekends, I would get everything done, and then I would relax and I would hang out with my family or go see a movie or hang out with my friends. And I just went into it with the kind of mindset that this is how I want to live and this is how I want my life to be. And if I can't do it, then I need to adjust it. And that's what I did. Like, when it got too much, I would say, sorry, I can't talk to you for a week. I have finals. But that's what I did.
I think for me, it was really trying to just treat law school like a job. I would get to the library at 8 and I would review my notes for class. Like Liv, I would do readings during my breaks. I was at the campus anyway, so I would use that time to try to get ahead on readings or just to review for the next class. And just when I went home for the day, if I didn't have to do readings for the next day, if I was already caught up, then that was it. I didn't look at my books again. I went and watched Netflix or hung out with my friends. So just keeping that balance.
I don't think that I find it personally to balance the two. I think with everything else, you get better at it with time. I think that the rigorous schedule that they keep you on in your first year of law school helps a lot. And I also think it comes down to your own circumstances. Liv and Rachel described the schedules and the systems that worked for them, and your circumstances will be different. You will have a job, or you will have kids, or you will have family obligations. So designing a schedule that works for you and sticking to it helps. I found that getting to school as early as possible my first year of law school was the best thing that I could have done. I tried to get there about 6 o'clock, earlier than 7 o'clock, because that's when the parking lot starts to fill up. I have to commute, and the traffic gets pretty bad around that time, especially in the winter. So that was a circumstance that I worked around, and it really helped me, because I got a couple hours of reading and work in before my school day started, before my first classes. And oftentimes I got to go home and not have any work to do. And then the whole rest of my day I had to myself, and I went to bed early And I did that for the first year, and then the pandemic happened when everybody's schedules went out the window. But if you are fortunate to find a comfortable schedule where you're feeling healthy, don't neglect your health or your mental health, then I think that you will find no trouble balancing your social life. One more thing, don't abandon your pre-law school friends. I really rely on the folks in my life that have nothing to do with law. They help keep me sane. It's fun to do things with people that aren't working on the same things that you are. Every Tuesday, I play board games with my friends that are just from high school or from other places, just because it's fun and it's good to see people that aren't always working on law stuff, because it can get a little insane if you just hang out with lawyers all the time.
Thank you. So speaking of friends, did you find it easy to make friends at the law school? And is there time to socialize in addition to schoolwork? Which I think we touched on a little bit, but you can run with, was it easy to make friends at the law school?
Definitely, especially your 1L year, because you will try to find people to make study groups with. And yeah, there is no shortage of social events either. So there are plenty of opportunities to meet other 1Ls, but also other upperclassmen. And you have plenty of time in between breaks of class and in between different classes as well to meet and socialize with people. So it's super easy.
Very, very easy. No trouble at all, at least for me. I would also say, just because it hasn't been mentioned yet, there are dozens of organizations, student organizations on campus that you can get involved in to meet people quickly. There is the Law Review. There's the Human Rights Law Review. There is Phi Alpha Delta, the world's biggest law fraternity. There are Outlaw, which is an LGBT advocacy organization, and dozens of other specialized groups that do social activities as well, but they also do advocacy or put on events where they have very interesting speakers come and talk about a relevant topic. And I found that that was a very good way to network and make friends. Some of the time, you'll want to just lock yourself into a study room by yourself to just get work done. But sit at a table in the library and invite people to sit down with you. Everybody's friendly here. And I don't think that anybody would say, no, I don't want to hang out with you if you invite them to sit down with you. They might be busy and they might be on their way to something and to somewhere, and they might not have the chance to. But saying hello to people is a really, really good way to meet people. And it's a very small building, and the law school is only located in one building where everybody knows each other. So you will meet people and make friends quickly.
I had the unique experience of starting law school completely online. And I did not have perhaps the opportunity to meet people in the halls. So I really took advantage of joining organizations, like what Tim said. That's actually how I met both Tim and Rachel, with two of the different organizations that I'm involved in. There is a lot of organizations that mirror what you may have known in undergrad, as far as organizations that are involved more for legal things. Obviously, everything is going to be somewhat legal in spec, but there's identity things, like whatever you like and like to do, and whatever your hobbies are, and whoever you are, there's probably an organization to join and kind of meet people who are more similar to you, as other than just being a law student with you. And if there isn't, it's pretty easy to start your own group and find other people to get involved with. I really, really, really encourage everyone to just get involved. It may seem daunting just with the schoolwork, but it's very cathartic to be able to complain. What Tim said is keeping in touch with your non-law school friends. Yes, but you can't really complain to them about law school, and they won't get it. So it's very cathartic to be able to complain to your law school friends and be like, oh, this project is so hard, and to bounce ideas off of each other. I would say that there is no end to the socialization that you can have if you go out there and are willing to be friendly to other people.
Thank you for bringing up the student groups. And just this fall, the 2 new student groups that created the First Generation student group and the Student Wellness Society. So if you see an area that you want to get into, it's more than welcome for you to, take that initiative. Can each of you speak on what you like most about attending UB specifically?
I would say the community of UB. I remember when I first came to UB as an accepted student for the law school, and it just right away felt very welcoming. All the professors and then all of the other accepted students as well. And, like Tim, we were just talking about getting the chance to meet other students and do social events. It was a very welcoming atmosphere. And I will say probably 95% of my friends I met through sitting in the library, just like Tim suggested. And it just is a great community. You can always find someone sitting in the library to join and sit with them and study together and bounce ideas off of. No one is overly competitive. No one's trying to compete with you for who has the better grade, like you hear about in some other schools. So it really is a great community to be a part of.
It's hard to name one. So I'll mention some, and then I'll name one that I think doesn't get enough credit. The professors are absolutely wonderful. You will meet a few that you will develop really close relationships with that will help you with mentoring, possible job opportunities, life advice. They're more than just there to assign you work and grade your work. That's not what they got into this business for. They love what they do. They love teaching more than just the coursework. Like Rachel said, the community at large, the friends that you will make are another great part of UB. The opportunities with clubs, externships, all those aside, I think that one of the best parts about UB, the administration is actually top notch. And I had a bit of a crisis. I had a problem registering this time around just because there were paperwork snafus, and the registration office at the UB helped me out. They're the most friendly people. They're absolutely and totally competent and stellar at their jobs. And the career services office does some of the best work, I think, at the law school. They will give you great advice and help you get jobs. That's the entire reason they're there, is to make your life easier. Some of the other administration officials who also double up as professors do a great job. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to meet Professor McDonald this week, but he is an excellent teacher who will teach you legal profession next year, which covers everything that you will need to know about how to survive your first year of law school. So University at Buffalo has a great community overall, but the administration is top notch.
Trying not to repeat what Rachel and Tim are saying, but I agree wholeheartedly. I admire a great deal of I had so much time to think, but then Rachel and Tim kept taking words out of my mouth, and I was like, dang it. I love Buffalo, and I think that the city of good neighbors really is imbued in the law school community as well. As I was very apprehensive going into law school. I was like, all of these people are going to be like type A personalities. It's going to be so competitive. I just can't let it get in my head. And then I came here and everyone was wonderful. So that sounds like a very general kind of hoity-toity, that's not the right word, but it's kind of a blanket statement, but everyone is really, really nice. And I really appreciate niceness. And I'll just keep it there.
Thank you. And if you have not heard of Buffalo as the city of good neighbors, you can go watch our Buffalo 101 session that's posted on our accepted students page, where I run through a little introduction about Buffalo and housing and all of that. And Jack, thank you for this question. What do you all recommend to do in the Buffalo area on the weekends?
There's like so much.
It depends what you're
on,
into.
It does depend on what you're into. There's lots of good places to eat and good places to drink, but like those things aside, if you're not from here and you're like the outdoors, we have Niagara Falls, we have Chestnut Ridge that are nearby if you like to hike. We have Canal Side where you can go enjoy the waterfront. We have Shays Performing Arts Center, which is like really, really good to go see a show. I feel like I'm a tourist, or not a tourist, a tour guide now. There's game shops in Buffalo. If you like to play board games or play video games, that you can meet those types of people there. I spent some time there myself. But also don't forget to do your work on the weekends, because you just can't get around it. You'd have to be very fortunate in order to have all of your weekends free all the time. And try to use some of that time to meet with the people at school. You don't have to do work or anything like that, but these people will be your colleagues for the rest of your lives in this career. And I think that you should invest in developing those relationships as early and often as possible.
I think the only thing I would add to that is just to hype up Canal Side again, because I feel like it really gets overrated, or not, it gets overlooked. That was the right word, sorry. Because in the summer there's always fun things to do there, but even in the winter they have ice skating. They have like a bunch of events always going on. So Canal Side is amazing.
I have nothing to add. I skied this year for the first time. So Holiday Valley, I went to Holiday Valley, and there's actually a student pass that was relatively cheap, actually. Never thought I could afford skiing. That was really fun. So that's what I did over the winter. And what Rachel said, Canal Side is amazing during the summer.
And if skiing or snowboarding is not your thing, a little too much for you, there is tubing as well down in Holiday Valley. So winters here aren't as bad, as there's endless activities if you're open to it. While we're on that subject, Jess asks, what's your favorite watering hole for study groups?
Jess, can you clarify the question? Like
Right,
watering hole for study group?
No, it was a joke. There was like a little smiley face afterward. You know, a watering hole is like a bar for socializing. I feel like I'm local in Buffalo and I constantly see law school students out for a drink and a chat. And so I guess I was curious, in all seriousness, like how people get those study groups together, whether they're coordinated and you're paired on campus, or whether it's upon you to find, you know, the smartest kid in the class and invite them for a drink.
It might not even be as difficult as that. you're going to have a smaller group of like 25 students within your lawyer class, which is the research and writing class. From there, you're going to be in all of the same classes usually with those 25 people. So you probably are going to pick from there. You might meet someone beforehand. You might meet someone at like an admitted student event. But to go back to the organization thing, a lot of the organizations on campus do bar nights. So that is a possibility. But you're probably going to not necessarily like meet up with anyone at a bar initially. I think you would make your friends first.
I would assume so. I mean, when I was in graduate school, for psychology, it was really frowned upon to create study groups. Like they wanted everybody to do their own independent reading, and like everything was very individualized for research purposes. Seems like UB Law is a little bit more collaborative. And I've heard even the dean talk about like the importance of talking through the topics and the curriculum and the syllabus with everybody. So I guess I was just, wondering how the competition versus collaboration unfolds.
I have a couple things to say about this because you mentioned a few issues. The first thing I'll just mention, if you look up my student profile, if I just Google my name and University of Buffalo, we each get a quote to put on our student profile, and my quote was something like work collaboratively first and competitively second. I really, really believe that. Caveat to it, it's not a situation where, I'll get a study group and you'll read this case and I'll read this case and we'll come back together and talk about it. You really do have to read the work independently, but you should still work on it together. There are watering holes close to University of Buffalo. I don't know if I should name any particular one, but look at Google Maps or something like that. You'll find some. And I think that what Olivia said is really true. You start your law school class, I believe the lawyer class, the legal analysis, writing and research class starts a week before all your other classes. So you're in a really intimate space with a close group of people. And those will be the first people that you start to develop close relationships with. If you see them in the hallway, say hello and keep saying hello until they're friends with you.
I don't really have anything to add. I think Liv and Tim hit it all. So
Thank you. Is there a particular housing situation each of you would not recommend for managing work well? For example, house full of roommates, or do the amenities of the school provide enough space to organize oneself in any housing situation?
I never lived on campus, caveat to that. I've always lived off campus. I lived with my family for a little while. I live in an apartment with my partner now. Neither of those were allowed environments with a lot of noisy people. So that's just my caveat there. But because the law library is nice and quiet and there's floors that only law students can access, and also that's sort of a mingling place for other law students as well, I would say that those amenities are more than enough to, as long as you're able to like sleep, hopefully, I think that that would be more than perfectly fine.
yeah, I would just agree with that. Nothing else to add.
Did anyone else have any other housing situations? Did anyone live on campus at all during their time at the law school?
I did not. There's not too much that I can add here. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. I was just wondering to expand to see, because I know we have a lot of housing questions on campus versus off campus and what students typically do. So thank you. To follow up, did you find commuting to be a struggle for getting involved on campus? Are events usually after 5 or throughout the day?
I don't think it's a struggle. Your days can get a little long if you want to attend a night event and you have classes in the morning. I live far enough away that it's just not possible for me to commute to school and then home to rest for a little bit and then go back to school for an event. If I've got school and then I have an event that day, I'm there all day. So that can get a little exhausting. So in that way, it's a struggle. But there are events pretty much continuously. So I don't think that you should have a problem getting involved.
The law school does, Amy Atkinson, my queen, she she's one of the admins who is kind of in charge of like event space, and kind of coordinating that. And there are some things that are like at noon, like kind of in the middle of the day when there's no classes, and those some clubs choose to have their meetings during the middle of the day because they don't want to keep you here longer than what your classes are. But I think most of the events that, what Tim said, like staying on campus a little bit longer that day will probably be what you do. And I live like 10 minutes away from campus, and I don't go home during the day, like for as long as I want to be there. I'm there, and then I go home, and that's what I do.
Yeah, I would agree with Liv and Tim. I don't really have that much of a struggle with commuting and getting involved in the campus. I live about 30 minutes away from UB. When I was there, I was pretty much there every day, all day. But to kind of echo what Liv said, a lot of clubs will work their schedules, especially their first initial general interest meetings, around the 1L schedules. So they will know when you have class, so they will plan it to be like right after your class, for example, so you don't have time, like a lot of dead space in between when their meeting starts and when your classes end, that you're just hanging around UB. So it makes it really easy to get involved.
Thank you.
I have a quick thing. So
Go
I
ahead.
had my really good friend, our first year, she was commuting an hour from Batavia every day, for the 1L schedule, Monday through Thursday at least. And she would basically choose like one night a week that she would stay for things if she was going to stay. And so if you're talking about like a longer commute, I think just being more picky with your time and kind of realizing like if you really want to do something and you really want to be involved, you're probably going to have to be on campus, or like depending on where you're commuting from, if that answers your question a little bit better.
Thank you. We have a question in here. I have heard there are more scholarship opportunities for students in the 2L and 3L years. How competitive is the process to secure these funds? Do you have any advice on when to apply or how to prepare for that application process?
It's less competitive than you would think because not many people apply for particular scholarships or grants or financial assistance. Take advantage of as many as you can. It's free money. Some of them can be a little bit time consuming because you have to draft up an application. Usually they will involve some sort of question on why you think that you qualify for a particular scholarship. And these become very particularized. There could be one for pro bono work. There could be one for domestic violence advocacy. There is a portal page, a web page that the law school provides you with, which is pretty regularly updated with new scholarships. And if there's one that interests you or applies to you, take advantage of them because it's free money. Please do. And my only advice would be blocking out the time to do more work can be hard. This is where all of your skills have to come together, your time management skills, staying on top of your schoolwork, because when you're competent at your schoolwork, you can start to use your law school skills to start to advance your own career in life by applying for scholarships, getting money, getting a job application done. So my only advice would be it's hard work, but you can do it and you just have to work hard.
Story. So I wanted to apply for some scholarships. And I think what you're saying about more opportunities in 2L or 3L years, or perhaps they're more specific to like what Tim was saying, like a pro bono, or like if you are involved in something, you might have an extra scholarship opportunity rather than like the generalist scholarship opportunities, which are definitely there. I applied to a generalist scholarship like a couple months ago, long enough ago that I forgot that I had applied to it, and then got an email that was like, we've given you, and it was a lot of money. And so I think that like looking for the scholarships and finding out which ones you can apply to and then just applying for it. And if you forget about it and then you get some extra money, that's always good. But there are definitely scholarships that are available just to 1Ls. So I don't think that it is too inequitable.
Okay. Another question I'm happy to answer unless anyone uses these features on campus. Do law students have to pay extra to use on-campus gym, pool, indoor track? No, you don't. Law students are UB students, same as any other graduate student, undergraduate student. So you get to use these features, which are in alumni. If anyone wants to add and they use them and promote any of that, feel free to do so. Okay.
I use the pool and the gym occasionally. They're pools and gyms, and I don't have to pay extra for it.
Thank you, Olivia. We are nearing the end, so I'm going to add this question in there. What advice would you give to new law students? One piece of advice.
I would say to just breathe and relax. You got accepted into law school. That probably was the hardest and maybe scariest part. So you're here, you did it, you earned your spot. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, not that anyone would. And just don't doubt yourself. You deserve to be here and you will do great.
I'm going to borrow advice from a person who's smarter than me, because that's a good trick that I learned. Professor McDonald has probably told you at this point, and if he hasn't yet, he will repeatedly, that this is a social profession. So you should treat it as such and work well with others. Your reputation means a lot, so don't ruin your career with stupid mistakes. And the other piece of advice I would say, like Rachel, relax. This is the one time where you're not expected to know anything about the law. They will teach you and you will get better. So don't be afraid about making mistakes. You will make mistakes and you will learn from them.
I really don't like going last with these things. I completely echo what Rachel and Tim said. Maybe be engaging and engage in the material, engage with your classmates, engage with your professors. Something I wasn't expecting, because I really didn't do this in undergrad, was to talk to my professors like they were regular people instead of just going to them for help. I think Tim said it earlier, they can be a really, really good resource for you for jobs, for internships, for just helping you understand material. So engage with your surroundings, engage with Buffalo, with the community, go out there and get them.
Thank you.
Go to office hours.
I'm just going to take one more moment in case anyone wants to add anything else into the chat, or go ahead and unmute themselves and ask any other questions in these last minutes. Okay. Thank you for adding in your email, Tim. I appreciate it. Every one of our student ambassadors profiles are on our website. You can reach out to them at any time if you have any other questions. And we have reached the end, not just of this session, but of the 2022 Virtual Admitted Students Week. I want to thank our panelists for taking time out of their very busy schedules to be with us today to provide us with their insight and experiences as UB Law students. I also want to remind everyone that we are holding in-person meetings that include class visits and a library tour happening throughout April. So if you've not already done so, please sign up. We would love to see you in person. And finally, thank you for considering UB School of Law as your potential law school. We really hope that you're considering joining our community and very shortly calling yourself a UB Law student. So thank you again on behalf of the entire admissions team, the School of Law, and I hope you all enjoy your weekend. Thank you.